Greetings YouTube, and welcome to a video that I really wish I didn't have to make. You see, in theory, we should be celebrating the fact that these top alliances that are cheating right and left to stay at the top and get the rewards that so many people who are playing fairly can't obtain, like it should be a positive that the piloters are being deducted. But there have been so many unintended consequences for alliances that aren't these cheaters that it has become maybe a net loss for so many people who weren't affected initially by the two separate ban waves that we've seen over the past week. So what do I mean by that? Well, first off, Kabam has done something that's really smart for their bottom line, but really terrible for the community. Instead of just straight up banning the cheaters, or my personal preference, just not allowing them to have any Alliance War rewards at all for the entire season, just making them rewards list until the season is over, they have moved them down to a lower tier and then kind of introduced into the game with special offers from 6-star shard offers to tier 5 basic offers to tier 2 alpha offers, the ability to whale out, spend the money that they would have probably spent piloting, get those rewards back anyway that they would have gotten back from Masters, only it's quote-unquote legal. And just most jarringly, and personally my alliance hasn't been too affected by this in the Gold 1 matchups I've seen, but I have heard from a lot of other Gold 1 and even Gold 2, and Gold 3 alliances who have gone up against these former Master and Platinum alliances, and they have no chance to win. Zero chance to win. It is entirely unfair. It's stupid. And so their rating, of course, goes down because they have to fight these steroided out rosters, and they're like the little engine that could, only they can't, right? They can't compete. They automatically just lose. So if I'm one of those alliances that has to be matched up against these terrible, terrible cheaters, I'm pissed, right? It's BS. But then on top of that, and this is something that I just feel like a lot of people haven't addressed yet, and I want to make sure to address this in this video. The people who fought the cheaters, it's not like Kabam has contacted them and been like, hey, remember that alliance you faced last week? Well, it turns out when they destroyed you, or maybe just barely beat you, that they were cheating. And so you actually should have won that alliance war, and you got far worse rewards because of it. But we're not going to do anything about this, and we're not going to retroactively give you your rewards back, so it just sucks to know that you fought cheaters and that there's nothing that's going to be a major consequence for your rewards, except for hopefully maybe the chance to move up a little bit in the brackets, but even that's not guaranteed. Until Kabam can assure people that the cheaters are that when they get docked, the people who had to go against them while they were cheating don't get some kind of compensation in return, it's just going to make everybody even more upset. Alliance War Seasons, make no mistake about it, was designed to be a cash grab for Kabam. And they have, I'm sure, made a ton of money off of it and will continue to make a ton of money off of it. But it's had so many terrible unintended consequences for player burnout and ethical violations and really great alliances that are no longer together because the alliance war politics have literally destroyed them and exploded them. I hear from at least one person every about 2 to 3 days who've told me, Prof, I don't know what to do. I have been in this alliance for 3 years. I thought we were all friends. But then all of a sudden we got flagged for cheating and no one would fess up and no one knows what to do. So the only way for us to guarantee we aren't with it is just for everybody to disband. Like, that sucks. When you've been with these people for 3 years and now all of a sudden you can't trust them, it sort of feels like a failed marriage. Like all of a sudden you're getting divorced and you thought everything was happy, and then this Alliance War Seasons wave hit and you couldn't figure out how to trust him again, so it's best to just go your separate ways. And yes, a marriage analogy might be a little bit dramatic, but it's not totally far-fetched, right? Like, that's how crazy the Alliance War Seasons has been for the community and how crazy destructive it's been for alliances that are doing nothing wrong, have to go up against the cheaters, lose in the process. Every time you go up against one of these docked alliances, you know you're not going to win if you're playing the right way, because there's no way that a Gold 1 alliance can compete in a top Platinum alliance or certainly a Master alliance. So if you're used to doing that, it almost feels like you're coasting now, right? Like if I was in a Plat 3 alliance and suddenly I got to fight a Gold 1, it would feel like I was going from like the NBA to high school in terms of difficulty. Wouldn't have to use any items, would just laugh at them trying to beat my stacked rank 2 6-star defenders. I mean, come on, Kabam, you have to address all of these issues. And we haven't even begun to talk about the lag and still some overheating issues and just all the other mechanics that have been broken since the update. These bans that were supposed to cause the average player to trust the company, I think have just made the average player more bitter and resentful. And unfortunately, the morale just continues to go down. So the consequences, especially for second-time violators, have to be way more than temporary bans. Have to be way more than just, oh, now you get gold rewards instead of platinum rewards. I'm talking about no rewards. Sit out the Alliance War season. In fact, I think if you're cheating, when you get suspended, this is like the equivalent of a baseball player getting suspended for 100 games and then still getting to get a paycheck in the minors. No, you shouldn't get any paycheck. You should just have to sit out and forfeit the rest of the time in Alliance War. And I realize some people are going to be like, Prof, it's not fair because one person can ruin it for everybody. And I know that sucks. If a lot of people are doing things the right way, you bring in somebody who's shady, you kick them, and you still get docked. But until there are actual consequences, and not just a couple of, like, in theory, permanent bans that you kind of hear about, the less likely it is for Alliance War seasons to be anything besides a cash grab and a morale situation that just decreases everyone's morale. So personally, I'm going to take the aggressive stance that if an alliance gets caught cheating, especially the second time, no rewards for that season. You have to sit this one out, champ. Get your shiz together and try to make it back for season 5. But then you don't have to worry about playing these alliances and other tiers because you know they are out. No Alliance War for them. The other thing that I want to talk about briefly is that I have heard that some of these Master and Platinum people who get docked, well, they're like, well, screw it. Since our alliance is screwed, we'll just leave this alliance and then we'll hit up some Platinum and Master alliances and we will offer a couple of $1,000 in some cases to buy our way into this alliance. And I had somebody who messaged me, this poor guy, he had just gotten the MVP #1 of his Alliance War, and single-handedly, it sounds like, was the difference in his battle group from losing and winning. But because he was still the newest member, they kicked him, and they said, dude, you're really great, but we couldn't pass up on the money. And who can blame them? If you've got a leader of an alliance that's like a 16-year-old kid, and he doesn't have a job, and suddenly some stranger comes in and says, hey, I'll PayPal you a couple grand if you make a spot for me in your alliance, how could you turn that down? That's, I don't know, college tuition money? Something. So it just has so many unintended consequences, and I wish that those horror stories were lies or exaggerations, but they are not. They are absolutely based on a true story, and I'm sure there are going to be people who comment on this and tell their own horror stories and make that one look tame. So what do you think about all of these unintended consequences for Season 4 of Alliance War, especially when it comes to the temporary bans and the docks of points? What should the punishments on the first and second offense? I think the second offense maybe should be it. I mean, you can't get 3 strikes and you're out, right? Like, there's no way you could have more than 3 strikes. And yet there are going to be people who get away with it. It reminds me of, like, college football when someone, like a head coach, leaves a program in ruins and they get sanctions, and then they just leave for a better program, and there's nothing that is wrong with that coach, but the team has got that cloud for the next couple of years. That's the equivalent of what's going on now. It's terrible for the game, it's terrible for the player base, it's terrible for the morale, and this video needed to be made, and I appreciate everybody who's given me feedback over the last several days wanting me to include certain points. I wrote them all down here next to me, and I wanted to make sure I highlighted them, so hopefully I highlighted the points that you wanted to be made out in the community. Now it's just time to come together and make sure that Kabam ups the punishments, because this kind of thing has to stop. It's only hurting the people that are doing everything right, and that cannot be the measurement of happiness or success in any mobile video game.